Light is an amazing design tool, and how it makes us feel is absolutely core to how we're going to use it in designing light in our homes. This video is going to help you work out how light can change how you feel, and also give you some insight into glare and how to control it. So let's start with the most important part, how light makes us feel. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to look at some images on the screen behind me, and you're going to imagine yourself in that place, okay? So you're going to look at these images and you're going to imagine yourself in this strong light and what it feels like to be sitting in strong sunlight and what it looks like with strong shadows and the warmth and the intensity and the energy that can come from that sort of lit environment. And now, once you've imagined yourself in that space, I'm going to change the images and I want you to imagine yourself in this different space. I want you to imagine yourself in this dappled light and how different it feels to be walking down a road somewhere through trees that move and light that flickers and changes and has shadow and sparkle in it. So now I want you to imagine that you are sitting in either of these spaces and how this space feels, how it would feel to be walking down this hallway. Now, anyone that's stayed in an inexpensive hotel, and I've had the pleasure of staying in many, knows exactly what it feels like to be walking down this space as you walk into the light and out of the light and into the light and out of the light and get slightly queasy on the way to your room. The other one is how most spaces are lit outdoors. Al fresco areas are often lit like this. It's a strange thing that all of us have, but if I'm eating outside, I need to be able to see my food, which in some parts of the world is possibly true, but in Melbourne, if the sun's gone down, you're going inside, right? Our weather doesn't really permit us to hang around out there past that. But the biggest thing to notice about this is that it's surrounded by black. So you are sitting in an island of light. You're in a spotlight, surrounded by darkness, having a joyous and relaxing meal with your family, right? The light doesn't really match the activity. So you need to be looking at lighting those spaces differently so you don't create this gloom and glare kind of situation. Because when it comes to light and how it makes us feel, glare feels awful. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, the sensation of glary light feels awful. And this right here is our main culprit of glary light. We fill ceiling after ceiling with them. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter the budget of the build. I've seen multi-million-dollar builds with ceilings full of these, and I've seen very inexpensive builds with ceilings full of these. And that glare from those lights means that every time you turn on your lights when you get home, instead of walking in your front door and turning on your lights and going, "Oh, I'm home," you walk in, you turn on your lights, you flinch a little bit and say, "Hi everyone, how you doing?" And you wait for your eyes to adapt to that glary environment. Glare is simply too much contrast. It's too much light in a very small space, surrounded by essentially a dark ceiling. So I'm going to turn that light on again for you. And I want you to look at the white ceiling around it and observe how grey the white ceiling is. Right? That is enhancing the sense of brightness of that tiny little pancake of light and making it even glarier because it's surrounded by a dark object. If I put a bunch of light on that ceiling, it's still glary and awful because it's a pancake and it's a terrible light, but it is less glary and awful because the ceiling is brighter. Can you see the difference? Can you see how the contrast changes how you perceive that? So there's a few different ways of managing glare. First is not to use pancakes. This is a hotel, not an inexpensive hotel, but a hotel room that we stayed in the city of Melbourne. It had a beautiful lighting design and it had 2 pancakes in the drop ceiling and it had one massive floor. All of the lights were on one switch. So I couldn't have my beautiful lighting design without the pancakes. What did I do? I didn't turn the lights on. I used the bedside lights aimed up at the ceiling, and we moved the floor lamp in the corner from the switched plug to an unswitched plug so that I could turn it on and off, and that was the lighting we had in that hotel room. Because they were just absolutely destroyed the mood. So one of the ways that you control glare is by not turning them on, and that is what most people do in their homes, is they have a house that has a ceiling full of pancake downlights that they don't turn on. They use a couple of lamps in the corner And when you're cooking dinner, you turn the downlights on for the duration of cooking dinner, and that's it. So there's got to be a better way, right? There are so many things you can do with light to mitigate glare and even remove it completely. It all comes down to making informed choices. I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like to ask us any questions, put them down below in the comments. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to this channel for the rest of Light 101.